Gurus. I'm Brian Batten. Today we welcome Katla to the podcast. Katla's Napalm Records debut, Scandinavian Pain, is out today. The guys talk about how being doom metal fans led to them being a band, the lyrical themes that have been a part of the band's DNA, figuring out the touring landscape that's possible for them, and more. When Napalm Records released the video for Taurus, I instantly knew I wanted to talk to the band and share their music with you all, and I'm so glad this worked out. Thanks much for listening to this episode of As the Story Grows. If you're new to the podcast, welcome. Thanks for checking us out. You can find links in our show notes or over at asthestorygrows.com to be a part of our Discord community, to join our mailing list, or to support the show financially on Patreon. And if you are new or haven't subscribed to the podcast yet, I would love it if you subscribed on your podcast platform of choice. A lot of people have been subscribing over on YouTube. And if you're a new YouTube listener, thanks. Enjoy today's conversation with Katla. How are you guys?
Oh, great. This is actually the last rehearsal before tour.
Nice.
And then, then it's off to the races.
Yeah. That's cool. That's cool. Where in Denmark are you guys located?
In Copenhagen.
Okay. Let's just start with a general question. What kind of got each of you into music, and maybe more specifically, like heavy music?
Ooh, great question. Anybody want to start? What was the question again? What got us into music and heavy music? I guess you start. I have that. I have the very normal route. My older brother brought home some CDs that touched my soul.
Nice.
One of them in particular was called Fuck You, We're From Denmark, Volume 1. And it's a collection of underground death metal.
Nice.
And that stirred something up inside. Yeah. Do you want to go, Mark?
Yeah, fine. I don't really recall what exactly got me into music. I've always been, my granddad, he was very musical and played the piano and stuff like that. But yeah, I kind of always have been more drafted towards rock music and stuff like that. Then it just evolved from there. I was kind of an outsider between the friends I grew up with. They were listening to all sorts of other type of music, but it really didn't catch on with me. And it was only in my start 20s I met some people that actually liked some of the same stuff that I also kind of liked. And then it just got on from there.
Nice.
Yeah. I guess, this is it's a bit weird, but I did dirt bike riding when I was a kid. And then, like, when you had to go to the workshop or the garage or whatever, with all the other kids who were dirt bike riding, it didn't really work out because all those kids were shitheads. And then, like, in the room next to it, there was like some kind of like music school sort of thing. It's like a youth house sort of situation. And their teacher, the music school teacher, was into heavy metal. And he was just a really good teacher, and was really good at introducing cool stuff. And I guess that's how I got into it.
Nice.
Just by, like, not liking the other kids from the dirt bike room. And I guess, as Mark is saying, finding a community in heavy metal and, like, being an outcast, a misfit, whatever, you could be whoever you wanted in the heavy metal environment. So yeah, I guess just fell in love with the whole vibe, and then the music was cool too.
That's cool. What was the scene like, the metal scene like over there in Copenhagen and Denmark in general? Was it like, a good scene? Was it a big open tent metal scene? Did it like skew one genre ways?
The Danish metal scene has always been sort of in the hiding behind the Swedish metal scene.
Okay.
So in many years, we've had a lot of great bands, but it wasn't as thriving. We didn't export as much. Mm-hmm. But now, within the recent years, a lot of bands have really started to make ripples. Cabal, Livesick, Vola, Afsky, yeah. So,
but I guess the important point here is that it's different genres now in the Danish scene, right? Because I guess when we grew up with it, there is a sound called like the Danish death metal, and all the bands sounded the same, and they all wanted the same, and it's cool if you like it, but it was never really a thing for me, at least, like personally, but it was sort of like the same thing, heavy metal wise or like death metal wise in Denmark. Yeah. But now the cool thing is like the scene is huge and it's different genres all over.
Yeah. What, I guess, how'd the band get started and what drew you to kind of the sludgy doom sound?
That's on you guys.
Oh, yeah. Well, me and Rasmus, we met each other at Copenhagen in 2017. And we had with our old bass player, it was a dude I knew from the military. And we were all into like doomy stuff. And then we just started from there, basically, when we met Rasmus there.
Nice.
Yeah. I think, it was definitely, it was because of the sludge doomy stuff that we kind of got to know each other. Because I think, like, I didn't know Mark and Dave until that day at the Copenhagen Festival. I don't know if you know about Copenhagen.
No,
it's a metal festival in Denmark. Like the biggest for us, like for like Scandinavians, I guess at least. And that's how we kind of we met in the realm of the sludgy, doomy stuff. Because there was such a cool wave going on back then. We're talking like 2017. In like the in the late waves of Electric Wizard and Sleep and stuff, like so many cool bands grew, and especially from the US as well. There was a huge movement going on.
Right. Yeah.
And I think we all just we're riding that wave and really liking those bands.
Yeah.
And then really wanted to make something similar, I guess.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, my background is from like the hardcore scene, but then it was discovering like bands like Katla and Sleep and Neurosis and Baroness that led me into kind of that genre of music, and that was just kind of what I liked from a metal perspective for a long time until the last few years when it's expanded. So yeah, I've always been a fan of this genre, or maybe not always, but half my life at this point.
Yeah. But I think they're the same, and totally, because we're all from the hardcore scene, you know, like, or like even like deathcore stuff, like from that whole vibe of music. And then I guess with the heavier stuff, it's just I don't know if it's like a thing becoming older that you like heavier shit. I don't know.
And slower shit.
Yeah, slower.
Yeah. Heavy and slow. What was the inspiration for the band name? I Googled it, and there are a lot of different meanings. There are a lot of different bands with this name as well. So
yeah. Well, the name is from a Swedish children's book called Brothers Lionheart.
Yeah, the Lionheart Brothers.
The Lionheart Brothers by Astrid Lindgren. And in that universe or the story, there is a dark lord, an evil man who is in control of a dragon that's called Katla.
Yeah.
And that's the direct inspiration for this name.
Thies, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. How did you end up joining the band?
Well, it's first it's pronounced Tice.
Tice? Okay.
Yeah. Well, I was playing in other bands, and the old bass player David was lucky enough to become a father. Yeah. And in the time around the birth of his child, they needed a substitute. And Mark and Rasmus reached out to me and asked if I could join for some shows. And I did 2 shows as a stand-in, and that was sort of that. And then all of a sudden, one day I was on a business trip, and I got a phone call from Rasmus that was like, "Hey, dude, so this is the situation." And they asked me if I could join the band because David, the old bass player, didn't have the desire anymore to pursue this.
Right.
So, and then having played 2 shows, I sort of knew what I got into. So the choice was fairly easy.
Nice.
To be allowed to play heavy music and scream my lungs out. That was a no-brainer.
Yeah.
I had to ask my wife first, of course, but besides that.
Of course. New album is called Scandinavian Pain. There seems to be a lot of themes about kind of dealing with, systems of oppression, be it religious or, political otherwise. Talk to me about when you started writing this album and developing the concept for it.
Pretty much right after Thijs joined the band. Because we were in a big crossroad for the band at the point where Dave had to quit because he was, he didn't find himself in a situation where he would be able to tour or take on the task of creating a full length album. Mm-hmm. But Mark and I, we were definitely ready to embark on trying to create full length. And I guess with the themes of the album, I think to me personally, and this is Rasmus speaking, by the way, I don't know if we sound too similar, actually, if it's hard for you to decipher. But I think creating the album, it was fairly easy with Thijs joining and then getting it all together and making one, I guess, collaborative theme about it or what we wanted to write about. But it's definitely subjects that has been part of the Katla DNA for a long time. And I think stuff we wanted to elaborate on because we've always been with all the releases we've done, it's been very critic to the Christian church and the religious establishment in Scandinavia. But I think now is the time to try to elaborate on that and try to make it a bit more nuanced, I guess.
This is your first release with Napalm Records. How'd you get connected with them?
It was, we played a show back in 2022, 23, maybe? 23.
Yeah.
And then our booger went and saw us we played in Copenhagen, and he sent a video of us playing live, a 13 seconds long video, to a guy he knew from Napalm Records, and then we got in contact. So that's how it started.
Yeah.
That's cool. What was the inspiration for the album artwork?
It's an old drawing from an old Sherlock Holmes book, actually.
Okay.
And it's based on the black dog. I don't know if you're familiar with the symbolism of the black dog.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's basically that, but that's also a big theme in the album Scandinavian Pain.
Okay.
Yeah, mental health issues and struggling with depression and anxiety in a world that's already crumbling. It's So I think with also the meaning that Winston Churchill put into the Black Dog, it was just very suiting in the sense of having that as the album cover, because the Black Dog kind of evolves around the whole thing about, what's going on inside and outside the human mind.
Nice.
And I'd like to add that it's all done by Rasmus, by the way. And what we talked about was that we wanted to have an album cover that when you were browsing records, you would stop and say, "Ooh, this looks badass."
Nice.
Yeah. So that and then you created this big pot of symbolism and awesome artwork that just looks pretty cool. So it's really nice. I like the way it came together, that we had the ability, or you had the ability to tie in so many references to the songs and create a visual aesthetic for the lyrical content of the record.
Yeah, for sure. But I think what's interesting with this, the physical record, is it's a gatefold that Napalm's going to release. And it was cool to have that task, because you can put so many really cool Easter eggs on a record. And so we did that. And, let's get your details so we can send you a copy. Because it's a really interesting record to explore. Because that's what I really like myself, when you buy a record, that you can sit and listen to the record and then look at it as not a book or booklet, but if you know what I mean, that you can kind of explore the universe through the record artwork itself. Yeah.
I bought a bunch of records from Napalm, and it's always their quality is so high and everything looks pristine, and that everything is a gatefold is phenomenal. It's so cool. Yeah. I really love that this album starts with "Don't Let the Fuckers Get You Down," which is this inspirational mantra. Whose idea was it to start the record with that?
That was Rasmus.
Nice.
A lot of the things that happens on this record is spawned from his mind. There were many phone calls with "Oh, we got to do this," and then that's been nice and very inspiring to have that creative outlet. But I think we were sitting and you brought up the idea that it would be nice to have this affirmation that would be sort of metal.
Yeah.
And instead of, when you go to a metal show, it's always about get the fuck up, all that. And we sort of wanted to create a safe space to be happy and angry at the same time.
Yeah.
And spread some love while playing really, really aggressive music. So that just tied very well into the whole DNA of the band already. Yeah. So it works perfect, and it's been mentioned a few times that it's really a surprise that's what opens the whole thing when people put it on.
Yeah, it's definitely a wonderful surprise, and you get the end of the affirmation, "Don't let the fuckers get you down. Life, love, and Satan." It's so funny. It's so fucked. It's great. Album's out in a month. You guys are hitting the road shortly. Is that your plan for this year? Just to be on the road as much as possible? Try to expand and build the fandom in Europe?
Yeah. Like you mentioned, this is the first release on Napalm Records. So it's also the first time really collaborating them ever since we signed with them. Yeah. So I think just play as many shows and do as much as possible, balancing the struggling artist financial side of it with the aspiring hopes of a band that wants to do as much as possible. We had some hopes for 2025 that didn't come through, so now we're trying to shift focus, but mainly it's about playing shows.
Awesome.
make a long story short. I don't know if the two of you have anything to add to that.
No, not really.
Yeah,
Awesome.
but I guess like the whole setup of going on tour before an album comes out could be seen as a weird setup, but it's also I find it kind of old school to go on tour while the release is like during the release, because that's promoting something that's about to come in a sense, which I find super interesting. So we're going to do that, promote the album, go on a Europe tour. We have a few festivals planned during the festival season in 25. And then hopefully I would say, like, to answer a question, I guess, hopefully, another tour in the fall. And then that's it, then 25 is over. And then,
Right? Already done with this shit.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and I guess for the American listeners, even though it's called Scandinavian Pain, we are trying to take up some subjects that are going on around in the world. It could have been called Western Civilization Pain instead, but that doesn't really sound that great.
It's not as metal.
But, there is songs on the record. There is especially one towards the end, or the last song, Castle of Purity, that has thematics where you could in some way say that that's, maybe about a certain person and about, tyrants of the West being assholes. So there is stuff that, is recognizable in the record about being from privileged areas in the world and being from Western civilization, and maybe trying to take a little bit care about what's going on in the rest of the world.